Hi, Marcin.
Hi.
Hey, I'm just going to try and. Ali is on the move at the moment. He's
Okay.
rushing to get back, but I'm going to try and call him in
Okay.
and
Okay.
see. Going to try and do this a roundabout way by calling him on my phone and putting my phone near the microphone of the computer.
Okay.
See how it works.
Yeah.
Hi, let me just put you on speaker and see if this works. Right. If you, Ali, if you speak, can Martian, you hear him? Ali? Oh, bear with me. Ali, can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Marcin, can you hear
I
Ali?
can I can hear, but try to speak clear and loud. Yeah.
So my phone, Ali, my phone is as loud as it will get.
Okay.
Um, so
And Ali, you can hear me?
I might pull over and see if I can log into Zoom. But Marcin, I haven't got the contract through yet.
can you hear that? Ali saying he hasn't got the contract through yet.
Okay, I signed it. I signed it. I did it yesterday. You didn't get it?
Okay. So hang on. Ali, he's saying he's saying he signed it and sent it yesterday.
I can send you a copy of that. I printed it out at the end. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, I have a copy if you want me to send it to you right now here.
He, so Marcin's just saying that he has signed it and he can send it over. Is that right?
I printed a PDF. I signed it on DocuSign.
He signed it on DocuSign. Well, do we need to confirm that's the case? Do we need to confirm that we've got it at our end first? Okay. Should we just move this meeting to? No. Sorry about this.
Yeah. I just forwarded it to Ali again.
So Martian has sent it to you again, Ali. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm now on the phone because it wasn't working. Okay. 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 Join us when you can. Bye for now. Right. Sorry about this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just us now, and hopefully Ali is going to join us. If he can find a place with internet reception and where it's safe to stop.
He's gonna try to join us.
So he's on the move at the moment, driving from one place to another, and he's trying to find a place with internet connection and a safe place to stop, and then will join us as soon as possible.
Okay. So, and to start with, what's your assessment, given that we're discovering product? I mean, we're still like discovering product. How do you frame the product? It's a school, but
Yeah.
we're looking at 2-week builder crash course at the beginning, 2-month cycles build up to a year. People can sign up for 2 months. People can sign up for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, as in the builder crash course, is exciting, and it will actually get some people to sign up for the full thing once they see what we're about. So there's exploration on the product front. The big picture stays. We've got an apprenticeship to change the world, replicate facilities, and create the open source economy. The global village construction set by 2028. Another 8 years after that, and a bigger budget. Open source the technosphere. So very ambitious things. Those things stay, and immediately it's exploration on exactly what what is needed now. Target market, yes, done some. How ready? My question is though, how ready are we to start this process, given some of those uncertainties? Like, how does that affect? My question to you is, are we ready to start today?
I'm ready from the design side. I think I have enough information on target audience in order to do that. I mean, the more I have, the better. And what I'm going to present to you today is the very essence of what it is you're selling. And so how you package that in different contexts will differ, and how and those different offerings will be needing to be presented in slightly different ways when it comes to that. But what I'm presenting to you today is exactly what the essence of what I believe the essence of what it is you're offering people is. And so if we agree on that, and it is going to be the end of the discussion, but if we agree on that, then that will really help us know what, it'll help us know what it is we have to package for the audience that we want. I mean, it's hard for me to clarify that much more without showing you something.
Yeah, I think essence is the same, even 20 years ago. The essence is the same. We want open source civilization and a real economy that works on completely different principles of collaboration and abundance. I mean, that kind of essence is absolutely there. Right now we're working at implementing that by educating people, because one of the missing things is that people don't have this culture or the varied skill sets to engage in this, and that's why the movement is not scaling at present. So we're being very deliberate on education around that. So,
Well,
yeah.
I just wanted to say, I appreciate that it's clear for you, but you need to be sure that we're clear.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because it's my job to try and draw out of you, and hopefully, to some degree, because I'm an outsider, to have bring a bit of clarity to that. Perhaps because I don't have the cursed knowledge that you may well have, being so close to it, because I'm further out.
Yeah.
I can try things out with you. You can say, yes, that's right. And then if we agree on what the essence of the thing is and how we're going to package that, that will mean that the design work going forward will capture that rather than go off course.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Just want to have that disclaimer up as we start, My warning that I want to make sure that we're ready to start the process. It's something Katarina brought up. Just ask you guys, just to start the meeting with a question to you guys. Are we ready? Meaning you guys and myself. Are we, as an organization, as a person, are we ready to start? I'm ready to start, but I just want to make sure that you know that where we stand. Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to start building a brand, and as long as you're clear on the fact that this is the primary thing right now we're creating is a language, rather than deliverables at this point. That's very important that that makes sense to you. Because from this point onwards, it's so how do you move your essence into a visual language which you can then place in lots of different places? That's the key thing. And a lot of people will think, okay, but I need a specific deliverable now. And that's fine, but it's much more important to work out what the background expression of the essence is going to be so that the deliverables are consistent. Because what we're trying to avoid is that you start using different expressions of ideas in different places. And I'm hoping that today will clarify a lot of things for you and make you think, okay, yes, they're on the track that I'm expecting, or if they're not, but what they're offering does make sense and I understand where they're going with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. How many sessions of this nature in terms of the Polarity brand work, how many sessions are there? Is this just one right now, or multiple?
The brand essence, I'm hoping to wrap up now. I'm hoping that we have the core ideas now, and then there'll be the major work of the design it will take a week or just over a week and a half, and I will present to you the sort of 3 rough concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get from that 3 different ways that you can present yourself to the world, with a ownable visual style, so that when people see the words that you say, but also the images that you use, they'll know, or they'll begin to be able to associate those things with you. And those things won't look like other things. They'll be your toolkit of visual parts. And so you'll have 3 of those. So the majority of the work is just doing the exploration into that first stage of what are those 3 routes going to be. After that, you'll pick one. We'll tweak aspects of it, and then there'll be a couple more meetings where we just get to a sort of finalized kit, which we'll give to you. And then from there, you'll have what you need to sort of brief other work in. We'll say, okay, we need some social media adverts. This is what they'll look like. Or we'll need to design some signage. I know roughly what that's going to look like. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Yep.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, I'll press on. Some of this will now seem repetitive because we've discussed it already.
Yep.
But I'll just jump.
Hey guys, just checking you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Sorry for my weird view. I got stopped in traffic and I managed to log on, but it's going to be stuck on my the roof of my car. But you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
Ali, just want to fill you in on what we just talked about. Given that we don't have 100% knowledge of product or audience,
Yeah.
while we have essence and we have a lot to go on, I just want to make that very transparent that I simply asked the question upon Katarina's request to say, are we ready? Just to verify with you guys where we're at, because I mean, this is going to keep evolving, right? And we're at a major transition point. And I believe the essence has been the same for 20 years, but now the details are going to change. And I want to make sure that we can address that because, we don't want to do change orders within the scope of work. We want to make sure that we can still proceed. So my question to you is, are we ready?
Ali, did you hear that?
Yeah. That's a very good end, absolutely, because as you said, the OSE essence, I think, is going to be consistent. The school essence will also be so closely linked to that, and then we do need to think about product a bit. The thing we're not ready for yet, before we know exactly who, is the film. That's the executional side of things. That's what we'd need. This is part of that, but that's where we'll need to really, before we make films, we need to be really clear who are these for. That's the key thing.
Yes. When we start the films, how much time to that point where we actually start working on the film part? Looks like we dropped.
Oh, I don't know if you heard any of that.
No, cut out the last 30 seconds or so. When are we starting the film part? So how much time do we still have to consider audience issues, target market?
That's really up to you, Marcin, because our deadlines for the film are really based on the original September date.
Yeah.
I think that's quite early, to be honest. We need to have a conversation about that, I think, because I don't think you should rush it. Like, that's the biggest mistake, is to rush it and not be entirely clear, because we can't unmake a film.
Mm-hmm.
It's way better usually to really figure out the narrative, really script it properly. One of the last things we do is then send the camera people over to you, and whoever, filming potentially people who have signed up already. But before any of that, we get really clear on right, who's this for? So that'll come after this process, but it's hard to give a direct date. What I will say is that I don't want us to make something before we're ready with the film, because that's gonna be just a waste of time.
Okay. So with that said, I think we can probably proceed. Any other things?
That's good.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this, Ali. I'm assuming not.
Yep.
I can't, but crack on, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I can actually, but I need to drive carefully.
Oh, okay. You're actually on the right.
Okay.
So this is what's called polarity audit. This is me hunting around to try and find the tensions in your organization, which will be the foundation for both the existing brand development, but also the creation of the new brand.
Mm-hmm.
The degree to which it affects the existing brand is going to be limited at the moment, just because of the scope. But we want the main reason well, we'd love to have more access to work on more of the main brand, but the main concern is just that we have continuity between these two things, and that we're not constrained by what's gone before. And we don't want to radically change. We don't want to throw everything out that's already existed. So when it comes to design, we'll show a range of different options that move closer and then move further away from where you are. But it's really that. Go
on. Existing logo, the one that we use right now with the kind of technical letters, is that going to be thrown out, or where do you think that's going to stand?
I expect to do an updated version of that. I don't want to say too much at this point exactly what I want to do, because I try not to know in advance what I'm going to do, so that I can the process can organically kind of show me what's going to happen. But I would normally try and do something that's safer and so closer to what already exists, and then something that's further away. And all of those designs would always be true to the core essence of what you're about. There'll be some visual variety. So yes, I would aim to have something that's close to what you've already got.
Okay.
But updated in a way that's not merely about mechanism. I think that's the issue with the existing logo. It's very much one-sided.
Okay. Are you actually are you able to record this?
That's a great idea. Could you do that, Al? Just press record to the cloud, and then we'll go to my Zoom account.
Sorry, where do I get that?
Bottom right on the Zoom screen. There should be, if you don't see the button, click more, and then it should pop up. Record.
I'm looking at the right place. I'm in the main Zoom.
Yeah, the main Zoom window. Usually it's at the bottom. There should be a little circle for record. If it's not there, then it'll be in more. Are you on a normal computer?
No, I found it. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong. Okay,
nice.
Here we go. Record to the cloud.
To the cloud, yeah.
This meeting is being recorded. Okay.
Great.
Excellent. Okay.
So the three things looking at this in session is how the design process works. We've talked a little bit about that. What I think your polarities are. As I've said, this is going to be a discussion, so it's not merely me simply top down saying this is what you have to do. It's just that I always try and come to a meeting like this with what I think is the best estimate of what they are, so that hopefully they can be refined but not completely U-turned. And then we'll talk about what happens next beyond this point.
Yeah. Okay.
So we sort of left off at the end of the last meeting just talking about the fact that we'd have to look into the things that you do, the thing that's already in place in order to find these opposites. There'd be a lot of them, and I'd pick out the ones that I think are most important, and then bring those to the fore, and so that they could be the foundation for the brand. And that's important because that's where the power of the organisation is, and it's in trying to pull these things together. And so if that's the power of the organisation, that's also the power of it's the attractive power it has for your target audience. So it's important to get those right.
And just like so I understand, like the deal about when a company gets a brand, what is your quick answer for why do you need a brand?
A brand is there's so many ways of saying this, but a brand is a meaning-orientated organisation or product or service. So the difference, businesses sell things or stuff, brands sell meaning.
Okay.
And so when a business integrates, now really what should be happening is that you should start, and this is how everything in reality works, is that you start with meaning, and then meaning makes things. So meaning produces material goods. But if you have a business already and you're making material things and you don't know quite why you're doing that, there's some unconscious reason that's driving you, then you become a brand really at the point where you decipher that unconscious reason and then put it in its rightful place so that becomes the driving force of the organisation.
Okay.
And lots of brands are dishonest in that they have a shallow brand essence which they use merely to sell things. But a really good brand or branded business is one that is truly driven by its core meaning. That's what gets people excited about it, who work for it. That's what kept people excited about it, who buy from it.
Are there extremely successful brands that have extremely successful companies that have a crappy brand?
Less and less so, I'd say. I'm sure there have been in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, in some ways, you could say that everything is a brand, because everything's driven by some sort of meaning. It would be hard to have a really brilliant product that someone's made simply for the sake of making money. I think that all the great commercial successes are those that start with a vision of the world and really care about changing something and doing something and making something, and they do it because they're in love with certain values and ideas.
Yep.
The person who starts off just thinking, what's the quickest way I can make a lot of money, is unlikely to make a really world-changing brand.
Yeah. Okay.
There may be exceptions out there. Maybe if you're if you're a raw investment company that's just using algorithms to crunch money making.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a place where that would be the case. But in the world of human things and human meaning, I can't think of. I'd be very surprised to find something like that. It's all the wrong way around. Money should be the result of having a great vision rather than the other way around.
Makes sense.
Like the landscape is too competitive in consumer. If you're attracting people, no brands, companies don't survive.
Oh, we lost you.
With bad brands, because there's too many. There's just companies like, I heard about a company. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
Oh yeah. So I heard Ship, which owns like it's like a $50 billion company you've never heard of, because it leases ships to like anyone who has like a ship, oil companies, cruises. A lot of them are leased from this one company. It's not a strong brand, but they don't need to have a strong brand. They actually want to be in the background.
Yeah.
But that's a real business to business, like very different kind of market, and they still have a brand. You still kind of go. You still have to have some way of identifying yourself compared to others. Otherwise, you just create a lot of confusion. So even they have some brand. Yeah.
Ali's kind of distinguishing there between two things, of one being meaningful and one having an identity. And
yes.
The two kind of come hand in hand. The original meaning of a brand was like the branding iron. This is my sheep or my cow compared to yours. But that rapidly evolved into, actually, when you identify something, you're identifying it for a reason, that you want to make something that's better than the next person's. And then how do you make something that's better? Well, then you move into the realm of meaning. And that's kind of where we are. Meaning and experience has been a sort of evolved form of what started with the burning a mark on a cow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To cut a long story short.
Yep. Okay. That's good.
So the design process, once we have what we're looking for today, which is this brand essence, is that we put that back into your organization. Now, for the mother brand, we're constraining ourselves to just sort of core brand elements, so logo, color palette, etc., just so that we have this continuity between school and mother brand. But then for the mother brand, for the school itself, then we're going to do a few more expressions of the communication, and these will feed back into the master brand. There's not going to be a complete disconnect between the two. It's just that they're serving slightly different purposes. One is the representative of a vision of the world more so, and the other one is more of a come and do this thing with us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a more action-orientated version. One is more active and the other one's more passive, but they are from the same DNA, so they're not going to be radically different creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do we find the polarities? And I thought I'd just sort of step back for a moment and just talk through kind of the big picture of where we're at. So thinking of your organisation, really big, broad brushstrokes. The world is in crisis. The core problem is an artificial scarcity mindset. You believe abundance is possible through open collaboration, and you've been developing open source tools and institutions, and you're now looking for mission-driven people with moral intelligence, and together you aim to create a replicable model of civilization, and then the long-term goals are a regenerative, open and abundant future. And so that's just the sort of framework from which I'm trying to draw some of these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to find the polarities behind these things, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for paradoxes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for places where things don't make sense. So this is very, I don't know if have you come across Ian McGilchrist?
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so
Exactly.
he's got the model of the right and left brain. And one of these, the right brain, is the one that's in touch with reality. It's the one that actually experiences the world as it really is. And it's very comfortable. In fact, it's very much in love with polarities. That's the thing that it's drawn to. Those are the places where the meaning are, or what meaning is. The left brain, on the other hand, whenever it comes across polar opposites, it just sees them as a problem to solve. It's something it sees it as a contradiction or paradox, and so it sort of crushes them and breaks them apart. And this is a problem in life generally. It's very destructive for society, but it's actually quite helpful in a process like this because we can use these places where we find these contradictions, where it seems like a sort of rational breakdown, as a place of where there's quite possibly a polarity underneath. So that's just my approach. And so where have I gone to look for these things? So we've gone to previous conversations, to your wiki page, emails that we've had. That's been sort of the primary source of just useful information, particularly when you sort of expanded on it through our previous meeting. There's been videos, there's your website. So there's a lot of different places I've gone for this information. There's so much information out there that I couldn't digest all of it, but I think nonetheless I've managed to pull out the key things that are most important. So onto those. That's just one last thing.
Sorry, the right brain. What'd you say? The right brain. The right brain actually welcomes contradiction.
Well, it doesn't see it as contradiction. That's the thing. The right brain experiences. So the polarity is not a contradiction. It's deeper than a contradiction. So polarities are actually what exists in the real world. Contradiction is what happens when you think about a polarity. It gets broken. And so when we think about politics, we think about left and right as irreconcilable opposites. But in reality, you need both left and right. Both of them play a part. They exist in every culture and civilization, or in some form. And so there must be a deeper reality that's there, that's healthy and real. But it's helpful to just see that there's this clash between left and right, because that makes us. You can use the discomfort of the left brain in order to head in that direction.
Yep.
And so I'm looking for those discrepancies when I'm hunting through your materials.
Yep.
So Niels Bohr loved this quote. So how wonderful we met with the paradox. Now we have some hope of making progress. Just this idea, and what we're trying to do is make progress through this presentation to get a real good sense of who you are.
Yep.
So go on.
Yep. Go ahead.
So the first chunk of this, or the next chunk of this, will be just looking at the paradoxes and polarity present in the organisation itself. I'm going to use Simon's why, how, what model. I'm not going to do it quite, and I'm not going to start with why, but I'm just going to use this as a way of breaking up the different aspects of your organisation. If we begin with the mission, your what. So the left and right are just examples of bits of information I've picked out. There's a conflict between left and right in a very rational sense, but these are where polarities are likely to be. So just for example, the fact that you're building only 50 machines. Now, obviously, 50 machines is a massive number to build in your circumstances, but the fact that you're trying with those 50 machines, you think you can achieve pretty much all of modern material needs. And so there's just a tension between that, just a small number, 50, all things considered, versus all those needs. The fact that you're giving away freely available plans, and yet it's also cutting edge technology. So the idea that something is open and free, and then yet at the same time, it's innovating. And now you'll be looking at these and thinking, well, of course these things go together. But at the same time, for someone like myself coming to it cold, these things jar me, and that's kind of helpful. So modular system, so you can build things in parts, and yet they can also scale. Everything's a fraction of cost, very high quality. There's a reduced ecological impact because of what you're doing here. It's very high performance. And so just a number of facts which we can put side by side. And so if I'm trying to draw out what I think is the key relationship there, this is initially what I thought. Well, if you think of it in terms of what you make, you've got your open source civilization kit. Now that's an obvious, I'm not saying anything new there, but just that's what sits beneath some of these things. It's actually more helpful to think, I think, in terms of what you do, because it gets more to the essence of the thing. So the open sourcing of modern life. So that to me seemed like what you do day to day is that putting together these opposite things. And so you have a complete working open source civilization kit for building thriving, self-sufficient communities anywhere in the world. And so then moving from what to then why. So we've got decentralized prosperity. We wanted to live in harmony with nature, but with material abundance, a thriving ecology, but also thriving economy. There's interdependence, but then also freedom and autonomy of people. Everyone exists in community, but there's an individual purpose. There's humility, but also mastery. And so how does that come? How do we find a tension in those things? Now, I began by thinking, why do you do this for sustainable flourishing? And then the more I looked into what you did, the less the word sustainable came up. And so what seemed to be more correct was regenerative civilization. Moving from civilization being sort of a cancer on the planet in many people's eyes to something where it's actually in harmony, humans and machines and nature all generative of each other in a productive way.
Yeah.
And so what's your vision? A future of abundance where human beings work together in harmony with nature and technology to lead meaningful, purposeful and autonomous lives. So we had the what, we've got the why, and then the how, and there were lots of these in your email, which is very helpful. And so there's a lot of different contradictions here, both wise and efficient, humility, fearless, inclusive, ambitious, willing to learn, thinking big. There's a vulnerability, acting boldly, without ego, and yet called out by the times. There's no us and them, and then you still got this idea of the man in the arena. So the individual is really important, yet at the same time, the individual is part of the greater community. And so ambitious collaboration was the first kind of way of me trying to put that together. But again, I thought that ambitious was just not quite, it didn't seem kind of rebellious enough somehow. And so I ended up with radical collaboration as being, it's so collaborative that it's going against the norms. It's unorthodox in just how away from the sort of individualistic culture it is. And so there's a kind of individualism about the radicalness, and yet at the same time that puts you straight into the collaboration. And so you work together with fearless humility, teaching and learning and evolving. You're humble yet ambitious, vulnerable yet courageous, wise and yet efficient. And so if I put all those together, that's one thing. I'd say your mission is to open source modern life. Why are you doing that? To achieve regenerative civilization. And what are your values? Radical collaboration. And then we could add those other ones to the list as well. And so this becomes kind of, we were talking back and forth in one of the emails earlier, or just comparing this to what ChatGPT gave you. It's not exactly how ChatGPT would do it, but I'm quite happy not to do it that way, because I think this gets finding the tension between these things gets much more quickly to the value of each of these things. And so this really becomes the manifesto is not quite the right word, but it becomes the core energies and forces out of which everything else comes. And so if we then take that and apply that to the school, this is a bit like taking the DNA and just putting it in a different context. So if you're open sourcing modern life, what does that look like in the school context? We're using a global village construction set to build a startup city that can be a model to reinvent the world. And so again, taking the general and making it more particular in that context. Your vision, regenerative civilization in the school context, is to create truly civilized citizens. So nurture individuals who create real community and harmony with themselves, nature and technology. And so it's almost the people are the product in a sense. Because the people, if you have the right culture and you have the right people, the end will sort itself out. If the means is right, the end will take care of itself. And then in terms of your values, radical collaboration. So in 4 years, the student will learn to work together, again, with fearless humility, teaching, learning, evolving, discovering how to be humble, yet ambitious, vulnerable, courageous, wise, and efficient. So same text there, but just slightly different packaging. And then this is, you have that line, don't give me the localization person, give me the high performance super co-operator. And so I'm trying to capture that spirit there. And so the school mission, to build a startup city, school vision, regenerative citizens, school values, again, radical collaboration. So it's the same values there. And I think that's appropriate because teachers and students will, you're seeing the sort of teacher and student as again, a kind of a polarity in itself, that to be one is also to be the other. And so it's appropriate that both have the same value set. And then if we put all of that together, we can see just as a chart, we can just go, okay, what's the mission of OSE? Open source modern life. What's the mission of the school? To build a startup city. What's the mission of the student? To develop skills to build the future. What's the vision of OSE? Is the regenerative civilization. What's the school's vision? To produce regenerative citizens. And then the student is to train to be that kind of person. And then again, with the values, it's the same all the way down. Collaboration, radical collaboration is what you believe in. Teaching that is what the school's about. Learning that is what the student is there for. And then I was trying to place moral intelligence in all of this, because obviously that's kind of really key to everything that you're doing. And I think it doesn't really have a place in any of these things. I think it's actually the mindset. And I'm sure you. This is again, this isn't going to be surprising to you at all. I'm just framing it a particular way. So I think moral intelligence is what makes all of these things possible. And I think the reason for that is that moral intelligence is actually kind of a polarity way of looking at the world. I think it's the right hemisphere approach. So if I look through your previous email, when you talk about the ideal student, you're saying that there's someone who recognizes there is wrong out there in the world, but they also take responsibility for it in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They see big problems, but they're also able to distinguish them from symptoms. They see lackings in the current system, but they believe in abundance, and they're always looking for win-win solutions. And so you've got these people who are able to, the most fundamental polarity is essentially diversity and unity. And so they're people who are able to see from a diverse range of different places and come at things from a diverse range of different places, but they hold a unity in themselves so that those things don't break apart and fracture. And it's because they're able to have that diversity and unity that each of these other things, the open sourcing modern life, the regenerative civilization, the radical collaboration, all become possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is my stab. I think it's a good stab at trying to capture the essence of who you are. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think you captured a lot of it. The only additions I have, jotting some things, which you touched on in a lot of ways. Singularity meta-crisis paradox. Idea that on one side we think that we're doomed, but first principles, abundance of energy and materials make it absolutely possible to thrive in a much bigger way. If you put numbers to that, we can use 100 times more energy and have 100 times in real numbers prosperity on this planet if we use the available energy because of the abundance of solar energy, which is such a paradox because people think that fossil fuels are abundant energy and renewable energy sucks. It's actually the other way around. It's fossil fuels are an absolutely scarce resource created on this planet in only 10 days of equivalent solar energy that hits the sun. You remember that? Did I mention the 10-day figure?
I don't remember you saying that.
Yeah, I mean, it takes 10 days of solar income upon the surface of the Earth to equal all the energy stored in fossil fuels that ever existed or that ever will be burned. So, first principles, Chat GPT it. And you can get into that. Now, just calculate it yourself. It's a simple calculation. So, just look at how much fossil fuels there is and how much sun there goes through the Earth. It's very simple. But it's like nobody knows this unless you start with this abundance mindset. You never even get to ask that question. But it's a fundamental question. So it's an absolute polarity. The idea of cost, like how things are ridiculously expensive, and that's because of the proprietary or design for obsolescence, the competitive waste, and all that, where we have absolutely abundant, just absolutely crazy technology that with one machine you do like 1 hour on that machine and you provide for like 1,000 people, like a combine. Take a combine. A high performance combine is going to get you like 10 acres or 30 acres per hour. 30 acres is enough to feed like, I don't know, like a few thousand people. It's like an hour, you know, as opposed to a person with a with a heavy hoe working their potatoes 10,000 years ago. Different. It's a different story. Yet we struggle more. Like, what's wrong with this civilization? Yeah. It's a lot about my notice. Like the polarities that I notice a lot about are just the abundance aspects, or the fact of how that applies to all the sectors from productivity to education. Because with education, the paradox is the further you go, the more useless any sentient being feels, because you get so narrow in education that was my complete experience. I was getting so narrow that you lose any kind of that feeling of, oh, this is, I'm learning to solve global problems. Well, wouldn't you think that if you go higher in education, you become ever more wise and ever more capable? No, I think it's the opposite. You become more and more impotent in terms of solving any real issues the farther you go in education. That's my take on it.
I suppose the polarity there would be general versus specific, because it does seem that if you can know specifics, that is also good. But you want to know, the polarity is really powerful when you are both a very big, powerful generalist and yet also know the specialist in certain areas too.
There's a word.
We've lost the generalism, and so we've only got half of that.
Mm-hmm. And
would that be correct?
Yeah. There's a good word in researching target market. I ran into the concept of deep generalist. So it's not a generalist. It's a thing. So, and this is maybe chat GPT bullshitting or whatever, but deep generalist versus the one below that is generalist, below that is specialist, but the generalist is a guy who kind of knows shallow everywhere. Deep generalist can go deep in like in a couple of things. After that is autodidact, which is, that doesn't really cut it because it's more academic. They're not necessarily performing in those
It's a rather broad word, that, isn't it?
So there's that other thing, like we look for autodidacts, but not people who go into mental fairyland. People who are actually going into tangible world issues. Other polarity may be something like integrated versus specialized, well, in education and everything, but integrated as in an integrated business will operate on all the levels, the social responsibility and eco and everything else, like always leaving things in a better way, like it's being such a contribution as opposed to we associate business with extracting. No, the integrated enterprise gets to be fully human and fully integrated. So there's that integrated efficiency concept versus specialization, where we've gotten way into specialization to do things, but we forget how to take care of the big picture when we get super specialized and we optimize, say, for extraction of something. But I think much higher productivity comes not from specialization, but actually from generalization. Like the CD home enterprise is absolute essence of it. We're going to generalize into machines, materials, design, enterprise, legal and engineering, etc. Governance when it comes to, we're getting a block donated from St. Joseph, Missouri, which we're working on right now, and we're going to give them a crazy plan for how regenerative this is going to be, as opposed to extractive. So there's a polarity. Beyond what you said, I don't know where to go, because you captured it pretty well, I think.
Well, in some ways, I've been trying to get the balance of how deep do I go into these things, because I'm trying. The thing about a brand's identity is that it is trying to be deep and general at the same time, but it's trying to capture people. It's quite a surface thing, and it's not to say that surface is shallow, but it's trying to hint at lots of things without getting into too much detail too quickly. And so we're trying to capture how do I put it? We're aiming at people's guts rather than their heads, or their hearts rather than their heads in this exercise, because what comes out the other end of the process is something that speaks more to their hearts. And so there's a degree to which that can't get too technical. And so I will be using words, I will be using statements and phrases, and I will be trying to capture things in that way. But the overall impression has to get people to feel some of these things rather before they think them. And so when I wanted that to be that when they see the parts of the identity, they feel regenerative civilization, or they feel radical collaboration. And some of those things are easier to feel than if you get down into. And again, I'm trying this. We have sort of had discussions before about by identifying yourself, you've also got to not be lots of things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that. And I know you want to be kind of cover off everything, but in finding at the very least, we have to know what the hierarchy of information is. And so, by having mission, vision, and values as the core polarities, that constrains us to a hierarchy of importance of ideas, so that there are other ideas that will be important and of fundamental importance down the hierarchy, which still undergird everything else and are still part of that DNA, but they don't show themselves in first meeting. A bit like, I don't know, if you go to a party and you present yourself. And in some ways, that's quite a good way to think about it, Brand. If you go to a party and you want to make a really good impression on new people, how would you talk about yourself? There's lots of things that are really key to who you are that you won't get to straight away. But if you're a very good conversationalist, you'll be able to dance around some of the core aspects in a winsome, playful way that draws people. And so that's what we're going for here.
Yeah.
I feel I'm waffling, but
no. That's exactly right, and that goes to the polarity of. Initially, I talked a lot about building machines, but right now I'm shifting more to talking about building humans.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Because it's the culture we found. It wasn't any. Oh yeah, but it took me a lot of time to discover that. Like once I started building machines, it's like holy cow, they work and they're way more productive than you ever dreamed. But okay, what's wrong now? Oh, people, humans, mindsets.
Yeah.
It's not there, and that's what we need to work on. That's why we're starting the school. Right?
Yeah. So, and I think this is the point at which you're readjusting that polarity. You went so well into the machine and the technology that it would be easy to end up staying there and then making your organisation not as effective as it would otherwise be, because you got stuck in one side of the thing when you need the other two. And so that's one of the key things we're trying to adjust for here is the humanity of the thing.
Yes.
And so we don't ignore the machines. That's very much in the. So that's very much in my mind as I'm picking the right visuals, is to have that relationship between technology and nature and people, because I think that's essential.
Yeah, absolutely. It's literally like if you want to be the best hippie, you gotta kill it on the machines.
Yes.
Really.
That's a line. That's a line for the film. I'm gonna save that.
That's brilliant.
Good.
Yeah, because all the soft skill people, in my view, I mean, there's a lot of people in that position which are just like they're ignoring the fact that there's an economy underneath the process, and they get violent against the people who are doing economies in a shitty way.
Yeah.
But themselves, they're failing to be inclusive. So there's that contradiction of like the inclusive. There is no us and them thing that we need to resolve, which is a potent thing, because the first, and I learned this. I'm very deliberate about having learned this. It's like, wait a minute, is it conspiracy and evil or just ignorance?
Yeah.
And I'm more like, it's ignorance. We need to bring everybody up. Nobody's fundamentally opposed to thriving and prosperity for everybody else. They just don't have a clue of how to do it, and therefore they get defensive and violent themselves. Whether it's on the right or left, we're all in it together is one of the main themes we're trying to get at here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's literally, totally agree. I got to send you, Marcin, I'll send you a cut of the documentary of Leviathan, which comes out next week. This is like the major theme between embodiment, abstraction, and the need to blend them together rather than the either or.
Yeah,
It's key, and I think there's a lot of people waking up to that. So it's a good place to be right now.
exactly.
It's part of the evolution. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the and, the and mindset. It's
yeah,
not this or that.
yeah,
We're abundant. We're and territory.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's if you're happy that we progress with these ideas into the brand expression, um, then that can start immediately. Um, and then
Yeah.
we just got to agree a date when I can present to you. Um, but uh, I'm excited and confident that we have here what we need to express that human technology relationship, that um, and you'll again, as I've said, we'll see different ways of doing that. Actually, no, now's a good time, so just press on. So, just
Yeah.
talking about
Let
how
me
we're
let
going to
me
express that.
bring one more. The thing between bold and humble versus
Yes,
ambitious, like the meek shall inherit the earth kind of style. The
yeah,
humility is what gets you to the high performance.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
not that you're this badass and uh, you've got all this power. It's that humility to listen to the times, to listen, um, be inclusive. I mean, really seeing the picture bigger than yourself. So the greatest ambition is actually in my world, and in the world of what I would call abundant mindset. The greatest ambition, power, omnipotence is humility.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's just a huge one because that means you can collaborate. You're not bringing yourself up above. You're not special. You're part of the universe, and you have
yeah,
that confidence and like the humility gets you through all these self-esteem issues of competing with the Joneses. You know
yes.
that kind of thing. So, yeah. So I think.
Well, I'm slightly kicking myself because in the values on the bottom corner, I've got fearless humility. I've written bold humility, and then I
Yeah.
changed. So maybe
mm,
I should change that back to bold humility. So it's more
Yeah, bold humility.
correct.
That's a good one. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
It's
I'll
really
stick with
cool.
that. Great. So then how do we express these things? So as I've said, there'll be three different routes. They'll all take a slightly different angle on these polarities. Um, so there'll be a different weighting because like sort of different sides of personality. So that you can kind of feel into which one you think captures feels most like you. Uh, and in terms of expression, so if we go back to this page from the previous presentation, we're talking about how the idea of dirt is good expresses itself in lots of different contexts, and they're slightly different in different contexts. Now, this is a huge project here that's gone over many years, so these are really quite different expressions of each other. But sort of what I'll be doing for you, if we take McDonald's as an example, I'm not taking McDonald's as an example because they're a great enterprise, just simply as a visual example. So for each of the two brands, you'll have the logo, typefaces to use, color palettes, and then sort of examples of how the visual language will work. So, and then for the school itself, we'll show you what a web page looks like, what an advert, social media advert would look like if you were to have a brochure or not a brochure, a sort of a guide to the school that you were going to give away. What would that have on the front cover in order to interest people? And then if you were to go to a recruitment fair or a careers fair, how could you set up a stand so people get the sense of what you're about very quickly?
Mm-hmm.
And that last one, the school stand, is a good one in terms of it's just there's a number of different moving parts, and so you can kind of get a sense of how all the different bits will work together in one go, in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is about creating a language. It's not about having a website at this point or about having a book at this point. It's just so that you can say, yes, that feels like me. I can imagine how that would have legs and move across lots of other things. I can imagine that in this context. I can imagine that context. So if that makes sense, then we're good to go with the next bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. more than career fair, I was thinking like not hitting those as much as there's a college tour, college tour, and
Okay.
if I go on college tour or even present to schools or other organizations, what's the key assets there? It's like a
Yeah.
college fair. It's like a career fair.
Okay. So similar setup of like a backdrop,
Like
uh,
at a
table.
conference or something
Yes.
like at a conference or something, which would apply to like here's your your college tour, like if they have a fair, if they have a. What is the specific thing you said? You said a fair, a career fair.
Recruitment fair or what did I say?
Career fair?
Career fair? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm making up these terms. I think these are ones I've searched already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just one comment on this. In terms of typefaces, if you were to go with a certain route, there might be a cost of having to buy a typeface, for example. And this would be the cases if in another project we needed to use photography or we had to hire an illustrator, there'd be a cost for that. So that's an additional cost to the project. Now, some typefaces are free. We wouldn't go for very expensive ones, but there'd possibly be a small fee. I'm just giving you that up front just to let you know that that's a fairly standard thing to do, so that we don't buy typefaces, use them, and then they're not involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go.
Take a look at. Did you see this page? Oh, we already had some of that. Let's see, have you seen that?
Are you sharing? Oh, we use.
Link in the chat box.
Well, hold on, going there.
I don't know if this helps or hinders, but that's what we've been kind of going at a little bit.
Oh, that's useful to see. Can I download these?
Yeah.
It's in the. Okay, it's in the.
It's in the wiki, yeah.
Cool.
You can download. There's a download link at the bottom.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Look at that log. Yeah, scroll up there too. You'll see more work regarding any of the graphics stuff from Jean-Baptiste, who did that a few years ago, 2014.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. If you want, unless you've got questions, you can press on.
I don't know. I think that's so regarding like, what if I review and just see some other important polarities? I mean, you that was pretty well presented. I think what you captured. I mean, nothing major comes up, but if I see any major things that seem like worth emphasizing, I can send that on to you.
I would do that as soon as possible, because as soon as we get into the work, that would, if you find something significantly different, I don't think you would.
No.
Because I think we have the core things there.
I think we hit a lot of the core. I mean, it's like dancing around the details now.
I think those details won't matter for this purpose. I think there'll be like a page on a website discussing something that's important, but not necessarily the front page, not the way you'd enter into the conversation.
Yeah. But yeah, what you said about, like imagine I'm at a party and I have an easy time explaining to anybody, because a lot of times it might be, some people might connect just crazy ways to what I'm saying them. Others are like,
Yeah.
But how do we get the ones who just say, to actually be captivated by this? Because you can speak at an easier level to them. If I could get that would be one metric of success for this exercise. Because I think this is universally, we're trying to speak in universal messages, timeless ways, yet some people just can't relate to it. Is that our problem or is it their problem?
I would say like I think it's a question of, definitely we can get more people into the tent and more people understanding it, but you'll always have, by the nature of reality, there's always going to be some people who are like, like no matter what you do, like this is always going to be the case. Now you can definitely expand the amount of people that get it and that draw out that universality. But there's always going to be, that's just a part of it, and that's a good thing actually, because a sociopathic stockbroker, you don't really. If he says yes, you're like, really? Do you really get it? Is that really how you're going to live your life? So it's basically, there's always going to be that, but we definitely can, and especially with with both the brands, and then also the execution, the stories. The aim is always to get in as many people as possible. But then there is also, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but with the school, we're going to get really clear on who are the types of people we want, and we're going to be speaking to them very specifically as well. Not to alienate anyone else. The ideal is that someone should watch it and see the brand and see the whole world and be like, damn, that is really cool. That's awesome. It's not for me right now, but that's cool. So at least we want to get there.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the last thing is we can't start until we have half the payment up front.
Okay.
So we'll need to work will begin when you receive that.
Okay.
And I can send. Yeah, I'll send that. And you know what? Do you use Wise at all, which used to be called TransferWise?
No, not really. I haven't.
It's a lot cheaper. Yeah, I can send you. It's a lot cheaper. It's just a really good online service where you can transfer money internationally. But I'll send various options for you. It's just that sometimes it's
on the back would be and the last thing would be, of course, wire instructions.
Yeah, so I'll send all of that through, and I'll put and then also I'll put a link to Wise, because it's it's very easy to set up, but it's just I highly recommend it when I do international stuff. And then so Marcin, while Al is working on that, I would really love to help you with the target market, just get a sense of where you're at. And also I wondered if I could interview the two people who have already expressed interest in signing up, the guy from Walmart and the woman you mentioned the other day, who's in a slightly different life stage. I would love to if you could put me in touch with them, and they would be open to that. I do like a Zoom interview with him. And I also wondered if your partner might be open to that. If she's, because I think she'll have all sorts of really useful insights, so if you can connect me with all of them, that would be great. And that's a efficient and effective way to start getting a sense. It would be, even if you had one more person who's expressed an interest, because always having 3 data points is good, or even someone you think is the kind of person, and I can probably find that, but it's just useful if you've actually had a direct conversation, someone's thinking, they're going to sign up for something.
This is within the scope of work of what
Yeah. I will do this because it will help. It's not an extra cost. Yeah.
What about, so there's a person, my mentor, who's a high power, actually, marketing guy. Do you want to? He gets this, the abundance part. So he's been working with me for about 7 to 8 years, and he's high level enterprise, and he gets the abundance part. Would you like to talk to him?
That would be fantastic. Yeah. That would be really interesting to hear his perspective from the more mainstream side of things, who gets it. That's great. Yeah. And Bradley's also a good one. I might have a chat with Bradley, just an informal, he spends a lot of time thinking about these different types of project, and he knows he knows the project, he's supporting it. It's always, it's useful, it's interesting. That should be enough then, and then maybe we'll figure out an exact time, but then over the next week. And I think we can figure out timings on the film once we have everything more in place, and we're all really confident, it's going to be these 2 or 3 audiences. That's really what we're focused on. Because, and then by the time Al is presenting to you the options, hopefully we'll be close to that.
The 2 candidates that are signing up, they're good. They're good representatives of the kind of cultures involved. It'll be good.
That's good. And then also, at some point, I need a bunch of information about the farm, just for filming stuff, just to get a sense of what's there, what's possible, what can we do. That's cool. That's not urgent. Maybe we can do that even the week after next or so. But I'm just flagging that even if you can send me phone video of your house and the farm, and also the video of any video you have at all of when you built your house. Anything and everything. Well, in fact, maybe I'll make a Google Drive folder that we can just start dumping stuff in, because that's going to be super helpful.
For use as actual footage.
Ideally,
we do have some stuff.
Let's see what we can do. Cool.
Were you thinking more the current house we live in, the one with a 5-day workshop, or the one that's not for sale
Yeah.
right now?
Whichever one has better footage
Yeah,
and can
yeah.
convincingly show exciting build happening.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Exciting build content, yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's the ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's good. It actually helps me organize. Yeah, we've got tons of different footage. I think here, what we have already, there's going to be some good stuff in there already. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Even footage of you guys, messing around, cooking dinner together and whatever when you first moved onto the farm. It's like literally at this stage, everything. So me and the editor can go through and we just like, you can't have too much footage at this point. Well, I mean, that's not true. You could have like 1,000 hours of World War II archived, but like, it's basically like the more we have, the more creativity we can draw on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cool.
Yep. Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Right, great to see you, Marcin.
Thank you.
Ali, we'll
So
get
Ali,
over it.
that's it. Nothing more today. Just
No,
we say
that's all.
when's the next session?
Let Ali and I discuss that and come back to you.
Yeah,
I
put
just
in.
need to make sure that I get the work, how I'm going to space out this work most effectively for everybody.
Sounds
That's
good.
right. Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Great stuff. So yeah, we'll talk soon. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
Nice one. Exciting.
Okay.
Cool. Speak soon, Marcin.
Okay.
All right, ciao.
Take care. Bye bye. And send me the video after you get it.